The Torah tells us, Bat Sukkot Teshvu Shivas Yomim. The Torah tells us there is a mitzvah to dwell in the Sukkah all of Sukkot, 7 days. And the simple explanation is we have a mitzvah of Yeshiva Sukkah, 7 days. How far the mitzvah goes, that certainly when you're being Kovea Suda, when you're having a meal, bread, and mizonos and other things, you're Kovea Suda and spending a lot of time, one should be in the Sukkah. If you're only eating an Achilas Arai, you're having a cup of coffee or you're having some potato chips, so it's praiseworthy to spend as much time as you can, even when you're not eating in the Sukkah, assuming it's appropriate things. And then, however, but you're putter from Achilas Arai. And in fact, and some have a minhag of sleeping in the Sukkah. In fact, from this straight halacha, sleeping is even more strict than eating. The Gemara says, even for Shinas Arai, you're going to take a cat nap for a half an hour, you should do it in the Sukkah. As opposed to eating Arai, that could be done out of the Sukkah. The minhag seems to be, more people seem to be more mahudr in eating in the Sukkah than sleeping in the Sukkah. And there are different heterim in different parts where you live. If your wife wants you in the house as opposed to many wives who want you out in the Sukkah. So whatever the heterim are, people, some people, yesh v'yesh, some sleep in the Sukkah, some don't. But that's, yeah.
Sorry, Achilas Arai. Look. Is it there a rule that with mazonas you must eat there, and otherwise you?
So bread and mazonas. So it's not. If you're having mazonas, it's not considered arai. Maybe if you just have a bite or something, but if you're eating, and usually also that's when you make a leishe basukah. So when you have a meal, and if you have a mazonos, and therefore you should always spend a little more time there if you're making a leishe, just in case it's to cover you. Because some opinions hold you make a leishe basukah every time you walk in. We don't pass in that way. So therefore, and some to say if you're just having a coffee and a donut and that's it, and you're running out, so it's a shiloh. So therefore, even if you're going to do it, if you spend a little more time, do a little learning in the Sukkah for a couple of minutes, so that'll be your Kovea Itim. A 5-minute Seder, gives you more to be somech on when you make the bracha.
I heard a question. I said, if you sit in the Sukkah, have a cup of coffee and learn in the Sukkah, should you say, he said, have a saffron cake as well.
Right, exactly. I go with that, yeah. So it's clear there is a mitzvah of yeshiva Sukkah. What isn't so clear is, what about today? Those who haven't put up the Sukkahs yet, or those who have, is there a mitzvah of Asiyah Sukkah? Or is that just a Heicha Timsa? There's no mitzvah building a Sukkah, but let me tell you something. If you don't build the Sukkah, I don't mean you, if a Sukkah is not built for you, then you won't be able to fulfill the mitzvah. Is it pragmatic that you have to hire someone or build it yourself? Is it like we have another mitzvah of Daled Minim? We have a mitzvah of shaking the 4 species. So is there a mitzvah to go out and go to Toronto, New York, Israel, wherever you're going to get it, actually pick out and put together your own lulav, own set of 4 minim? Oh no, the bottom line is, the mitzvah is, come Monday morning, you have to have a daled minim. And of course, al pi halacha, it's enough, even if for some reason you don't have your own, because the halacha is you have to own it to fulfill your mitzvah. So you could do you could even do a matana or tanai. If for whatever reason you don't have a daled minim, have your friend give it to you, temporarily, say for the next 30 seconds, next 2 minutes, this daled minim is yours. Now you can fulfill the mitzvah, and then you get it back. It's not so simple with a katan, because a katan might be able to acquire it, but not give it back to you. So I'd wait to day 2 to give it to a katan to let him use. Unless you give it to the katan and you don't give it to him, it wouldn't make a difference anyway, because he won't get the mitzvah. If it's the katan, he doesn't have to. It's chinuch, so maybe it's good enough. But either way, so that's the question. We know there's clearly a mitzvah to sit in the Sukkah and shake the daled minim, but is there a special inyan? Is there more of an inyan of putting your own daled minim together, like asiyas, or is there more of an inyan of building your own Sukkah, or they're both the non-issue? It doesn't make a difference by hook or by crook. We don't care how it's up. well, maybe by crook we do mitzvah ba'avera, but assuming you hire someone, you put it up, is there any Indian? So actually the Rishonim discussed perhaps that maybe that no one, so by Dalan Minim it's clear there is no mitzvah, it's just a pure hechsher mitzvah. You have to do everything you can before Yontiv to enable yourself that on Yontiv you fulfill your mitzvah of Dalan Minim. There's no special Indian of being, personally, more than in general. It's a general idea of Zahiras, of always taking, if it's important to you, take care of it, but nothing per se about the mitzvah of Dalan Minim. However, by Sukkah isn't as clear as it seems, because on a simple level it seems it's just a pure, simple Heksher mitzvah. It's like I have to have the Dalan Minim Monday morning, I have to have my Sukkah up by tonight, but there's no Indian for me to do it. Rashi and Makkas seems to imply not that way. There's a Rashi, the Gemara Makkas talks about someone who's in the city of refuge, or a Mikla, because he killed someone b'shogeg. So Rashi in parentheticals comment, not talking about the mitzvah of Sukkah at all, not the Gemara is, but he says the gathering of the wood isn't the mitzvah. When he talks about the mitzvah of Sukkah, he makes a statement, the gathering of the wood, the cutting of the wood, the gathering of the wood isn't the mitzvah. So all the Achronim jump on, right, what does he mean? But what is the mitzvah? Asiyah Sukkah. Gathering the wood, but building the Sukkah, that is the mitzvah. Some want to say, based on Rashi and Maktas and Daf Ches, the Rashi is not only in addition to sitting in the Sukkah, which everyone agrees is a mitzvah. Rashi says building a Sukkah itself, Asiyah Sukkah itself, is a mitzvah. And in fact, that is the opinion of the Yerushalmi, the Jerusalem Talmud. The Jerusalem Talmud, in fact, that not only says it's a mitzvah, but he says it's a mitzvah you make a bracha on. That when, I guess he hasn't, whether it's before you put your last nail in or before you put your schach on, whenever you make the bracha, according to the Yerushalmi, but the Yerushalmi writes there is a bracha as well associated with building the sukkah. So clearly if you're making a bracha, there's nothing to talk about. You only make a bracha if you're doing a mitzvah. So according to, and this is the Yerushalmi consistent with his view, because the Yerushalmi writes in general, he says it by Sukkah, because by Sukkah it says also by Li'asu lahem tzitzis, and you shall make yourself tzitzis. Uksav tamam mezuzos beisacha, writing mezuzah, Sefer Torah. So the Yerushalmi is consistent when the Torah, and that seems to be the opinion of the Netziv, who says it a little differently. He calls it a heksher mitzvah haksuva b'Torah. That there's a difference when the Torah itself gives you the mitzvah to prepare versus when by the Dalan Minim it just says shake the Dalan Minim on Sukkah. It doesn't say, but by Sukkah it says, even though it's not the context, Chaga Sukkah's Taseh Lacha. So they make a drasha Taseh, you have to make it yourself. That's not really what it means, but that's what the drasha means. And therefore the Yerushalmi says that one has to make clearly Asiyah Sukkah is a mitzvah. Also, he says when you make your tzitzis as a mitzvah, you make a bracha as well. So it's the Yerushalmi consistent with their view elsewhere. And the Bavli does not say anywhere about making a bracha. It's clear we do not make a bracha. That's clear. There is no bracha on Asiyah Sukkah. So the question is that a fundamental dispute with the Yerushalmi? We disagree with the premise that it's not a mitzvah? No, maybe we do think it's a mitzvah, but for some other reason we don't make a bracha. Is it a fundamental issue that there is no mitzvah? Or no, maybe we agree with the Yerushalmi, but it's a hilchas brachas issue. What do you mean it's a hilchas brachas issue? That you only make a bracha on the gemar ha-mitzvah. Then maybe we agree. Building a sukkah is a tchilas mitzvah, but we have a rule in hilchas brachas. You only make a bracha on the clincher. The clincher here is sitting in the sukkah. The Rabbi agreed.
First of all, we have a couple of aspects. One is shlichah, the Rabbi said. Therefore, you have a shliach doing it for you. So that's number one. That's one possibility. The other possibility of Asiyas Sukkah has another dimension. That is that it has an objective. It's not the Asiyas Sukkah. It has to be something that you can perform, whether it's eating or sleeping, or whatever thing that you do in your home should go into that to transform it into a home concept. So therefore,
Teshvuk ein tadiro.
That's right. So if you take both, See, the Asiya means that you have designated this as your home. The designation is the Asiya. And what's the designation? To eat, to make kiddush, and do everything else. That makes it. In other words, or else it can be just a storage house. But what makes it is your action in it.
But in fact, even if you hold building a sukkah-ism, it's hard to say, let's say you plan on going to Israel for sukkahs or Florida. It's hard to believe the Yerushalmi would say build a sukkah and then don't use it. I don't think anyone would go that far. Even if by yeshivas a sukkah, you have a mitzvah. There's a whole discussion. We pass whether you have to sit in the same sukkah, the whole sukkahs. We don't pass in that way. You could sit in. You could go visit Jason. You could sit in your own sukkah. We assume as long as you're in the sukkah. But no one would go that far to say Asiyah sukkah is a mitzvah just to build this. You know, you have 3 homes. Okay, I'll build my sukkah in Israel, Florida, New York. That no one would go that far. Even if you can hold Asiyah sukkah as a mitzvah, there still has to be the end game of actually using it, and that's why some say it's a local hilchas brachas issue, that the machokas with the Bavli is that you only make a bracha on the Gemar HaMitzvah, and therefore maybe making these sitters isn't Chiyas HaMitzvah, but to make your sitters and leave them in your drawer, like it's not meaningful, okay, you know, you're not going to, or you know, I'll write up a mezuzah and not put it up, so it's not meaningful. Everyone agrees it's only, even if you can hold it to Chiyas HaMitzvah, it's only if it ends up being used as a mitzvah. If you end up writing it, there's no mitzvah to say to have parashiyos sitting in your drawer, or to have sitters sitting in your drawer. The mitzvah is to be wearing them or on your doorpost, yeah?
Is the mitzvah to wave the 4 species every day or just the first day?
So, so on a biblical level, so when the Beis HaMikdash was up, the mitzvah was called Shiva. Biblically speaking, we had a mitzvah all 7 days. Bizman Hazeh, we don't have the Beis HaMikdash, so we assume day 1 is biblical. That's why you have a lot of chumras with owning your 4 species, and the rest of Sukkot is a din d'Rabbanan. We have a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. So the mitzvah is every day, but it's biblical the first day and rabbinical. That's why in terms of the estrog and all the halachas, we're more strict on day 1 and perhaps day 2. But after that, we'll lenient because it's only a mitzvah d'Rabbanan. Part 2.
A katan who becomes bar mitzvah on Chochmah. Like the Omer, any implication?
Right. So in case it wouldn't be because so he just have. He'd only be chayav from the day, you know, al tzchinuch, he'd be doing the mitzvah before, but then he'd only have to buy a dalamina, which is kosher for day 3, 4, 5, whatever day he's in, yeah. And sitting in the sukkah would be the same, because the sukkah is no different. The sukkah is biblical kol shiva. In other words, anytime you eat a certain amount of food, you have to eat in the sukkah, there might be a special mitzvah in night 1 with kiddush, but during the week, there's the same mitzvah in Torah. If you sit in the sukkah, you fulfill a mitzvah in Torah, yeah.
Look, I always hear that if somebody makes a free, you've still got to shake a few bit of suck at the end, so technically you made it, so to say. Now, does that assume that making a sukkah is a mitzvah?
No, either way, it's clearly it's assuming it's at least it's a hechshem. See, when we say building a sukkah, let's not confuse building the sukkah with putting some schach. Legally speaking, if someone could build my whole sukkah, it's not hypothetical. This is what happens. Someone builds my whole sukkah. In fact, it's a discussion in the Gemara whether a Gentile could build your sukkah or not. The Gemara talks about it, but someone builds my whole sukkah, they put all the schach up, and then I go out later and I take some schach, I move it around. So that's the word sukkah, comes from the word schach. By definition, that is what sukkah means. So it's not the hard work of finding, obviously you get schar mitzvah. If you spend time building, you're going to get a schar, but that's just for being involved in a mitzvah per se. But the actual mitzvah of sukkah, even if you assume Asiyah sukkah is the mitzvah, it's only the schach. Clearly you need walls you have to have walls to put the schach on, but that's the heicha timsta to fulfill your mitzvah. So therefore, that's why you need a davra chadash. So Beis Shammai says you got to build it, which, you know, even we assume as long as it was within 30 days, you put it up within 30 days for sukkahs, that's enough, and you should have a davra chadash, that you should do something. So minimally, if you didn't build your own sukkah physically, you should do something with the schach, like go out today before sukkahs and and move them up and down to fulfill your mitzvah or heksha mitzvah. That's why. And if it's a heksha mitzvah ksuva b'torah, that's when it's div right. We don't apply the general rule. We apply the general rule of shluchos shalom kamoso, but it's better if we assume it's normally if it's a heksha mitzvah, someone could pick up my dollar minim for me and there's no difference. But by sukkah, then it's div right. Since it's a heksha mitzvah ksuva b'torah, we apply mitzvah bo yoter mishlucha. You should do it yourself. So therefore, you should be involved with the schach a little bit to fulfill mitzvah bo yoter mishlucha. But there is no Indian by dalad minim at all. If someone else could put together your dalad minim for you, it's just a pure heksher mitzvah.
Look, if you get someone else to put up your mezuzah for you, you don't have to hammer in the last nail or something.
No, right. It depends. Well, according to the Yerushalmi, so it would be an Indian if it's a tchilas, if the kfiyos, then it'd be an Indian for you to do it yourself. But we assume the mitzvah is the deer, and you wouldn't have to do it. In fact, that's a discussion. If I put up a mezuzah in your house, it's clearly your mitzvah. The question is, who makes the bracha? Some say the bracha is going on the Maisa mitzvah. So even though if I put a mezuzah up in your house, I can make the bracha even though it's your mitzvah. That gets into it. Yes, I don't have to be the one being koveya.
So the machlokas is putting up the sukkah, putting up what do you call the mezuzah? Is itself
yeah, that's the Yerushalmi. Yerushalmi writes, uksav tam amazuzos pesach. Right, so writing and perhaps putting up is what he says about writing, because the Torah says, but
we don't.
No, right. We assume that the mitzvah is to live in a house which has a mezuzah. That's what we assume a halacha. Yeah.